And that brings me also to the issue of the NSA, and I'll be glad to entertain any questions you have. And I support the NSA program. And despite what you hear in the media, despite what you read in the newspaper, the fact is that the NSA is not allowed to listen to any phone call, not allowed to read anyone's emails, nothing at all. That is all talk propagated by a traitor, Edward Snowden, which the media is all too willing to pick up. And those who are critics of the NSA are both on the left and on the right. You have isolationists on the right, like Rand Paul, who is saying that the government is following him everywhere and listening to all his phone calls. Total lies. On the other hand, you have, on the left, you have the Civil Liberties Union and others who are very, very concerned about what they consider to be violations of privacy. The fact is, all it's done, and try to make this clear, all that's collected by the NSA are phone numbers. What they do is they do keep, they take from the phone companies all of the records of every phone call that's made in the United States, number to number, date and time. No names, no addresses, nobody listens to the call, nobody can listen to the call. All those numbers are stockpiled in a lockbox, if you will, which no one is allowed to have access to unless and until what they do is, if there's a foreign terrorist phone number, a phone number from overseas where we know that terrorists use this number, then that number is taken and drilled down into that lockbox of numbers to see if any one of the numbers in the U.S. has spoken to somebody on that phone. And then they do what's called a hop. Then they go to 2 or 3 more phone numbers to see who they have been in contact with. And all of last year, there were 300 times this was used. 300 times out of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of phone calls. And that is under strict court supervision. The court monitors it. Every time they go in, every time a number is looked at, it has to be approved by a court. And for anyone then to monitor future calls, which would involve wiretapping or eavesdropping on calls, that would be done not by the NSA but by the FBI, and they have to get a court order to do it, which is what happens every time the FBI is going after organized crime or child pornography or drug dealers, where they get court orders to allow them to listen in on phone calls. That is what that is all about. And people say, well, why do you have to stockpile hundreds of millions of phone numbers if these people aren't under suspicion? Well, the fact is, if you're trying to find out who the terrorist has been talking to, you can't do it unless the numbers are there. Otherwise, you know, people say if you're trying to find a needle in a haystack, you have to have a haystack. You can't just be looking for the needle. So the fact is, that is what that is all about, and I really find it shameful the way it's been distorted. Now, we can have honest discussions over, for instance, whether it's possible for those phone records to be kept with the phone companies rather than turned over to the NSA. That's something the NSA is more than willing to do if the phone companies felt they were capable of doing it and being able to give instantaneous access to those numbers. But again, no one is listening to the calls. The NSA has never listened to anyone's phone call in the United States or read anyone's email. It's directed entirely at overseas calls, and then if an overseas call from a terrorist is made into the U.S., find out how they were talking to, and only going forward can anyone listen to the call, and that would have to be done with a court order and under strict supervision.